Hello friends, very warm and good afternoon greetings to all of you. So here I, Kunal Nagpal, once again welcome you back to our great economic session. Dear guys, this economic session is again going to be a very insightful discussion wherein we will basically going to go through the remarks presented by the Tata chairman Mr. N. Chandrasekaran, and he states that rising manufacturing share may actually help India to weather the slowing global growth and global recession. He states India is actually well positioned to continue being the fastest growing major economy, supported by increasing consumption, consumer confidence and investment. So these are the three main pillars, that is increasing consumption, consumer confidence and investment, which will help India to actually prosper in the manufacturing sector, that is the secondary sector of India, immensely helping it to actually combat the after effects of the global growth and global recession. Next, we are also going to go through the New Year mantra for the startups, that is conserve cash, cut, burn and turn profitable. That's the success mantra for the startups for the new year. So let's begin our today's discussion, and again we are going to start our economic session with the basic foundation of the philosophical content. It's really beautiful and gives a very mesmerizing feeling to begin our session with the godly versions. So here it goes. Men and women in all times have tried to attain happiness by ignoring their conscience that keeps reviewing all their good and bad actions on a constant basis, and that is actually bliss within reach. Therefore, all efforts to buy its approval, to silence its voice in nervous excitement, to drown it in pleasure with intoxicating substances are bound to go in vain. That's why I repeat, bliss, which is actually internal, which is actually associated only with our inner desire, and that is within reach, that is bliss within reach. The Supreme Being created us along the lines of truth and justice. Therefore, in order to gain true happiness, it is actually imperative that we do not violate the laws that constitute the very core of our existence. So long as our aspiration is to amass wealth by any possible means, we can never attain to true happiness, simply because we have deviated from the path of righteousness. We tend to make happiness too complicated an affair. Most people are governed by the understanding that happiness can be derived by doing something on a grand scale, doing everything externally, from making a big fortune and from great display of wealth with the purpose of showing off one's affluence and high status in the society. But dear friends, actually happiness is the basic concept of going within, find your inner happiness and spread it out. That is inside out approach. It is not an outside in approach. If we are following an outside in approach, that's actually very, very temporary, with a very shallow foundation and with a very fragile foundation. So helping colleagues and friends without expecting anything in return, acts of kindness towards animals, conducting oneself with utmost humility, performance of one's duties with utmost sincerity, protecting the gifts bestowed upon us by the bountiful nature, living in a spirit of togetherness with fellow beings, all are the simple things yet they are what constitute true happiness. And this is what leads us to bliss that lies within reach, if only we knew how to access it. And my dear friends, its strategy is actually very, very simple. And we need to explore it by sitting in silence and doing the introspection, silencing our minds with the peaceful songs, with godly versions, by reading good content. This would help us to sit in peace for some time, introspect, go within, find the true treasures of happiness, which are gifted to us by our eternal parent, God. And then you will be fulfilled, and then you will feel contented, and then happiness will automatically radiate to you, and it will get displayed in all your actions. That's the real foundation of attaining bliss, and that is actually bliss within reach. And in Hindi we said Anand. Bliss means Anand. That is, we have been able to attain everything, and that's the real foundation of true happiness. Now, dear guys, let's begin with today's economic session. We are all charged now, and now we will absorb all the contents of our economic session fully. So let's begin. The rising manufacturing share may actually help India to weather the slowing global growth and global recession, as stated by the renowned pioneer leader Mr. N. Chandrasekaran, Tata Sons. So he states, India is actually well positioned to continue being the fastest major growing economy, supported by the increasing consumption, consumer confidence and investment. While slowing global growth may act as a drag on output, the country's rising share of global manufacturing should provide some buffer and insulation. Mr. N. Chandrasekaran, Chairman, Tata Sons, in a year-end message to his employees. Barring the pandemic and the global financial crisis, next year may actually mark the lowest global growth since the millennium began. We will need to keep careful watch on the commodity price rises in particular. However, the global environment has several risk factors, including the energy crisis in Europe, the battle to contain inflation to avoid recession, and ongoing geopolitical conflicts, he said. So, my dear friends, the global environment is actually expected to get more intense in the coming year. So, we really need to tighten our seatbelts, and we need to realize what are our core strengths, and that is the manufacturing sector, as very beautifully presented by our great pioneer leader Mr. N. Chandrasekaran ji. So actually we need to capitalize on our core areas of strength, and that is the real strategy to actually combat the after effects of the global slowdown. Moreover, we have also been discussing in our sessions what are the core areas of our strength. That is the rising digital economy. That is the main area of strength, right? Next, the Tata Group has launched new initiatives to participate in global supply chains, and as part of the focus on sustainability has devised a group-wide project, that is Aliyangana, that is Embrace. Our approach encompasses three interconnected pillars. I repeat, our approach encompasses three interconnected pillars, that is reducing the emissions to reach net zero by 2045, pioneering circular economies through sharing, then reusing and recycling. So sharing, reusing and recycling are the three main approaches for pioneering our circular economies. And the third pillar is preserving and restoring the nature and biodiversity holistically, he said. So I repeat, our approach encompasses three interconnected pillars, that is reducing the emissions to reach net zero by 2045, that is SDG 7 and SDG 13, paying equal emphasis to these sustainable development goals. Then, pioneering circular economies through sharing, reusing, and recycling. And thirdly, preserving and restoring nature and biodiversity, he said. So, the business momentum has been very strong for many of the group companies, which noted significant milestones, including getting Air India back to the group, the launch of Tata Neu, and sales of Tata Motors passenger vehicles crossing 5 lakh in a year, and Tata electric vehicle cars accounting for 10%, he said. There has been a good improvement and a strong performance of the companies across the group. Our success came from our relentless drive to lead, the remarkable dedication, and the talent we nurture. So these are again the core strengths of Tata Sons. That is the relentless drive to lead, the remarkable dedication, and the talent we nurture. These are the core strengths or the core character traits of a charismatic leader. In each of our segments, we are continuing to make progress and raising the bar, be it in terms of performance, customer experience, quality, sustainability, or innovation, he stated. So dear friends, he has presented the write-up so beautifully that it encompasses the entire holistic development. What are the core aspects for the holistic development? He has stated the facts so beautifully. And it's really a fantastic feeling which we experience after reading this particular write-up, and going through this is truly an overwhelming experience. Now, as stated, let's discuss the New Year mantra for the startups, that is conserve cash, cut, burn, and turn profitable. Conserve cash, cut, burn, and turn profitable. This was actually the common refrain among India's top founders, investors, and internet executives in Economic Times' annual State of Startup survey. The poll, which sought responses from over 60 key people, comes amid one of the worst downturns for the technology industry globally. That's the real secret, my dear guys. It's actually a dark room globally in which we are residing today, and its darkness is actually expected to intensify more in the coming year, and the times to come are really going to be very, very sensitive. Now, in order to retain our brightness and increase it further, we need to strategize and capitalize on our core strengths. Thus, we need to frame our overall policy framework in such an effective manner that we will be able to sustain these tough times. So for that, we really need to be very, very dynamic and actually charismatic in our overall thinking pattern, and the leadership style should be molded accordingly. And that's what our pioneer leaders have been claiming again and again. They have been stating, they have been investing their times to research on the core areas of strength on which we need to actually capitalize. And that's what they have been presenting to us. So it's our duty to capitalize on our core areas of strength. So that's what the New Year mantra for the startups is. That is, conserve cash, cut, burn, and turn profitable. And the survey has been conducted among the 60 top key people who have given their reviews, which we will just go through now. The poll, which sought responses from over 60 key people, comes amid one of the worst downturns for the technology industry globally. As the companies tighten their belts, 64% of respondents said the funding crunch may ease in the second half of 2023, while 21% felt it could become worse. 14.8% said the environment will actually remain the same this year. So these are basically the main inferences which we can draw from this survey. Investor skittishness has made most founders with adequate cash runway say they would avoid fundraising for the next 6 months. Around a quarter of them said they may still consider trying to mop up new capital. Last year was a fundraising record for the Indian startups when 40 new unicorns, that is the private firms valued at $1 billion or more, were burdened. However, over the last 6 to 8 months, it has been a battle for survival, founders and investors said. 2022 has actually been a learning for all the stakeholders in the startup and tech sector, which was probably swayed by the influx of large volumes of funds in the previous years. It didn't take long for the people to realize the influence of macroeconomic and political factors of a globalized economy in impacting the investor sentiment across the world. A startup founder who participated in the ET survey said, "Thinking for the long term is actually extremely important than pursuing the short term." That's what we have been highlighting in all our sessions. Be long-term oriented in your overall thought process and accordingly devise the new policy framework. Funding for the startups this year stood at $23.7 billion as of December 21, compared to $35.46 billion racked up last year, according to the data platform Venture Intelligence. In short, the overall exuberance of the last year has given way to extreme caution amid the geopolitical uncertainty due to the Ukraine conflict and interest rate hikes by the US Central Bank. The biggest takeaway for 2022 has been to do fewer things, conserve cash, and focus on the profitable growth, said one founder on the condition of anonymity. Decouple your business and strategy in anticipation for the next funding round, another entrepreneur added. The poll, conducted over 3 weeks, highlights how the startup ecosystem has been reacting to the so-called funding winter. About 87% of those polled said they would not shy away from shutting down the unviable businesses and restructuring their organizations. Moving up every revenue-driving initiative and retiring every non-essential cost, said Mr. Sahil Goyal, founder of logistics aggregator firm ShipRocket, on being asked about his priorities as an entrepreneur in 2022. Mr. Goyal said the focus is on building a business profitably. Focus on the core markets and products along with better unit economics and scale up what's working, said Mr. Varun Alag, the co-founder of direct-to-consumer startup Mame Earth. Gurugram-based Mame Earth clocked 943 crore rupees in operating revenue in the financial year 2022 and a profit of 14.4 crore rupees. It basically plans to go in for an initial public offering, that is IPO, next year, At a $1.2 billion valuation, the startup is almost the most valued D2C brands in India. The markets have reset, the ecosystem is in a different era, and there is no going back, said Mr. V.T. Bharadwaj, general partner at Mumbai-based investment firm A91 Partners. So, if you have the product market fit, that is PMF, and cash in the bank, aggressively invest to take share. If you don't have a product market fit, retool. Cut back on cost and experiment if you don't have a business model. Aggressively cut back cost. Go back to the drawing board on business, he said. Assume no capital is available for the next 3 years. PMF, that is the product market fit, he said, happens when the unit economics work. And the reason it works is because demand is getting created through pull by fulfilling a customer need and not by push through discounts and performance marketing, Mr. Bharadwaj added. Several consumer-focused startups have had to cut down marketing spends to conserve the cash. Growth at all costs is not something we have followed historically, and neither are we going to do the same in future. We plan to stay frugal on our cash utilization and will ensure there is heightened awareness about it, said Mr. Tushar Garg, founder of electric vehicle firm BlueSmart. BlueSmart will not, however, cut back on hiring. We will hire for the right reasons, Mr. Garg said. Growth and profitability are not mutually exclusive, and they need to work in tandem, said Mr. Siddharth Pai, founding partner at early stage venture fund 314 Capital and investor in unicorns like meat delivery startup Licious and Neobank Open. Capital preservation is still key, with frugality becoming the norm as opposed to the exception. Fundamentals are back in vogue and will remain so for the near future, he said. Last year, another big theme was the startup IPOs, that is the initial public offerings. However, 6 months into their public market debuts, most new age stocks like Zomato, Paytm, Nykaa and Policybazaar had taken a major beating on the bowsers amid a large rout in tech stocks globally. Taking the gloomy picture into account, close to 47% of those surveyed said a listing may actually become viable for the local startups only in 2024. The IPO markets are open now for the profitable new age companies. Governance and profitability will be the key themes for 2023. I repeat, governance and profitability will be the key themes for 2023, said Mr. Mohan Kumar, managing partner at Avatar Ventures, a software as a service and enterprise-focused growth stage venture capital firm. Listed firms like Freshworks and trading at a market capitalization of $3.72 billion presently compared to $13 billion when it listed on the Nasdaq in September last year. So dear friends, the State of Startup Survey 2022, let's go through the basic questions the respondents were asked and how did they respond. Let's go through the core analysis. The first question put to them is, how long will the funding downturn last in India? And 63.9% say that it may improve in the H2 of 2023, whereas 21.3% people said that it could get worse the next year. So overall, we can say that it's an optimistic response, as nearly 64% people are saying that the funding may improve in the coming years, and the funding downturn will actually subside. So the next question put to them is restructuring or shutting unviable businesses on the cards next year for many companies? To which nearly 87%, that is 86.9% people say yes, whereas 8.2% people say maybe, and 4.9% people are actually indifferent. The third question put to them is, will the companies lay off employees in big numbers in the year 2023 to conserve cash? To which nearly 65.6% people say yes. The companies may actually lay off employees in big numbers in 2023 to conserve the cash, whereas 29.5% people are actually quite doubtful. They are saying that maybe, whereas 4.9% people are actually indifferent to this particular question. Now, the fourth question asked to them is, will there be a significant number of down rounds? To which again, nearly 63.9% people say yes, and 29.5% people say there may be certain down rounds. That is, they are not sure, they are quite doubtful. Whereas 6.6% people are indifferent. That is, they have other responses. Next question asked to them is the public market still a viable option for the startups next year? When will the tech stocks rebound? 46.7% people say it may rebound in 2024. 25% say that it may rebound in 2023 itself. And 28.3% people are actually indifferent. That is, they have other responses to this question. Next question is, what about the fundraising plans in next 6 months? To which nearly 58.9%, that is 59% people say no. That is, the fundraising plans won't be there in next 6 months. That is till the first half of 2023. 26.8% people are actually saying and agreeing. They are saying yes and are agreeing that there may be the fundraising plans in the next 6 months, whereas 14.3% people are indifferent. And the last question asked to them is, have the valuations corrected in India compared to the United States? To which the respondents answer yes. And yes has been said by 44.3% of respondents, whereas 42.6% of the respondents say no. The valuations have not been corrected in India compared to the US, whereas 13.1% people are actually indifferent to this particular question. And the source of this particular survey has been the ED Tech poll, that is the Economic Times Tech poll. So dear friends, that's all for today's session, and I believe that you have been benefited immensely with this great productive session, as we have tried to go through the overall holistic view of Mr. N. Chandrasekharanji regarding the core strengths of the Indian economy on which we really need to capitalize. And what are the key takeaways? We have had a critical discussion on this particular aspect. Next, we have also gone through the new year plans which the startups are basically aspiring for. That is their new year mantra, that is conserve cash, cut burn, and turn profitable. So these are the core highlights of today's session. So I would again like to say goodbye, dear guys, though this is the moment when we have to bid separation, but we will again meet. Until then, take a very good care of yourselves. Namaskar. Jai Hind.